I was having a back and forth with someone on Twitter, and I misread their statement where they said the vast revenue of Xbox's growth lately has been from acquisitions of Activision and Bethesda. That's accurate. That's actually true. But the conclusion that they're going to leave the gaming business because of this is faulty. And the reason it's faulty is simply because how is Xbox going to go ahead and make up for the revenue that already was a part of the status of these companies before they acquired them? Let me explain. And I put this up here because it's very important to know this, because this is what people are saying. And I know some of the folk that are claiming this. You have some aspects of the internet, like, say, some PlayStation pundits that say, well, they're already making money with the acquisitions, right? Well, and their consoles are not selling past a certain amount of units. So they only sold 30 million units is what they keep saying. Yet you can't find Xbox on shelves in Target and some other stores, whatever. And they say, well, this is the case, right? But then I ask them and say, well, hold on. The money that they made or the growth that they received, right? If that growth came from Activision, let's just say ATVI, did Activision not make some of its money from PlayStation and Xbox console as well? So if Xbox decided that they wanted to scrap the console in the traditional sense, then they will put Activision at a negative position, seeing as they would have lost the source of their revenue. Or do you really think people are going to be willing to just go ahead and adopt Steam? But on Steam, Activision's presence is quite low because Battle.net is where a lot of those Call of Duty games are played the most on PC. But how many, console players are going to be willing to just go ahead and make that transition to go from Xbox to Battle.net or to Steam? This is a question that those folk who are asking or claiming this have not answered. So the conclusion, which in Occam's razor tells us that the simplest explanation is most likely the best explanation, Xbox has no particular benefit, or even there's nothing in terms of the upside for them to go ahead and remove Xbox from their equation when it comes to making money. Another piece of the puzzle people don't necessarily realize is the console generates 30% of revenue for Xbox from majority of these IPs and more. This is just the top 15 of these different titles. Of the so-called 30 million, maybe if you are actually paying attention, it's more like, believe it or not, 70 million, as they are also supporting the Xbox One via cloud streaming, and also games like Fortnite and other titles that can play cross-generation wise. You remember that Marvel Rivals actually did make a PlayStation 4 version? I'm sure some of you forgot. And also, there's an Xbox One version of the Call of Duty game. I'm sure some of you forgot. How are they going to also be able to leverage this 30% revenue that they're already getting? Where are they going to get it from? Again, would people be willing to just go ahead and transition to another ecosystem like Steam just because? They know that that's going to be rough. That's going to be hard. And plus, they got a good 30. If you pay attention, 70 million people on the consoles. They would love for this 70 million people to just go right here. Or the next thing, Magnus or whatever the heck y'all are calling it, in order for them to basically continue to make money off of them. On consoles, they can upsell. On consoles, they can make more money. As many people refuse to actually consider these pieces, it's shocking to me that they come up with these conclusions. And so I did tell the gentleman, I was like, okay, I misread you, and I did misread their statement because I thought they said that, majority of Xbox's revenue is in acquisitions. I didn't read it properly. It said majority of their growth has come from acquisitions. But what people are not factoring in, and let me go to my notifications here so that I can see it. So shout out to Max Mini 12, where you said this over here on your comment. And that's when I asked you this particular question, and I said, I misread your statement. You are correct. Majority of their growth is from Activision. But how does that mean they're going to leave hardware when Activision's current status depends on Xbox's hardware? Bethesda's current status depends on Xbox's hardware, pre and post acquisition. Why would they want to do that? It doesn't make any sense. In fact, they've released, and I just whacked my mic, they've released two Bethesda games that have stayed on the Xbox console, Starfield and Redfall. They don't have a PlayStation version just yet. And those games were able to continue to pretty much piggyback off their success, including Steam in the case of Starfield, right? And be able to give Xbox an edge there. But they cannot reduce their potential audience because you say so, or because they now found an extra piece of income based on Activision and Bethesda. That's crazy. It's like you're saying just because somebody bought a new hat, they should throw their shoes away. That makes no sense. You feel me? Or just because somebody bought a watch, they should discard of their ring. It doesn't make any sense. These fashion accessories can be additive and can complement one another. So if many of you are not paying attention right now, listen to me, if many of you are not paying attention right now to the possibility that the entire Xbox ecosystem is one that is of an additive nature, then you're pretty much saying you believe Xbox is going to go throw money away, which will be antithetical to the so-called 30% in terms of their profit and growth and revenue that they're trying to achieve. In fact, what's even funny is there's still more people that continue to say they don't understand what this, Xbox everything is. They don't realize that the Xbox everything is an additive methodology to Xbox as a whole. Xbox can sell you consoles at cost. In fact, they're proving that they can sell you consoles at cost. They just realize that it's easier for them now because they now have additive means of you entering their ecosystem, buying services and buying games, that they can now close that deficit by selling the console at cost to you. So them going out of the console business at a time when they can actually sell you consoles at cost, as PlayStation and Nintendo are pretty much establishing that you can sell hardware for decent amounts of money, it's just wild. I don't see anywhere where that's a valid proposition for them. So this is why I've always argued that Xbox leaving the console business makes no sense to them and reduces their entire hunting scheme where they're looking for more money. Even PlayStation, in a position like this right now, is also taking on additive measures. But no one has ever concluded that those additive measures would move PlayStation out of the hardware business. That's crazy. It's a shocking conclusion that people actually come to at the end of the day. So this is so crazy when people come up with these conclusions. So it's one of those things where as you parse down this piece of the whole puzzle, you really have to go ahead and ask these people and say, what is it that y'all are concluding? And so here again, he's still going ahead. He said, when I asked him, I said, did y'all forget that Call of Duty on Xbox? So you know what he said? He said, because gamers don't disappear, they relocate. We know that $10 billion out of Xbox was just from Activision and Bethesda. Minecraft also makes $2 to $3 billion, so the remaining $11 billion is from hardware, console, storefront, accessories, Game Pass, and other third party. So if you're saying that Xbox makes about $11 billion from its console hardware, how can you then conclude that they're going to go ahead and abandon the hardware that they're making $11 billion from? Where are these gamers? Why would Xbox want them to migrate anywhere else? You said whatever Xbox is in third-party sales, they can get from first-party sales on PlayStation and PS. Yeah, that's crazy. And Game Pass will continue on PC without research and development and all the logistical cost of a console. Yet, they are making a console. They disagree with you. And that's just a simple thing. This is a hardcore PlayStation, fanboy, Xbox detractor framing. This is what I discussed with Puderok on his podcast. He's saying that they can just move to PC. Why would they want to go make $16 a month on Game Pass when they can farm $30 a month on Game Pass Ultimate on console? Think about it. I mean, this is not rocket science. This is not rocket science. And the funny part is, once you start telling them and saying, you just calculated that majority of their money, actually, the majority of revenue comes from the console hardware. I remember saying it to Puderok then. I said, majority of Xbox's revenue comes from Xbox consoles. And they keep saying, if Xbox hardware disappears, where is it going to disappear to? Is it going to Houdini its way and gamers are going to then migrate to PlayStation? That's wishful thinking. Y'all are wishing that that's what's going to happen so that you can say, oh, PlayStation won the console war. Xbox ain't doing any of that. In fact, Phil and Sarah and freaking everybody has now come out to tell you we're making new hardware, because they are making new hardware as they see growth potential now that Xbox is everywhere. If somebody was playing Xbox on their TV and they said Xbox experience for me is good right now, when it's time for them to select their next console, oh, you better believe that there are people who are going to consider an Xbox in the running. Before, that was not the case. If somebody was playing Xbox on their phone and then the next console generation comes around, you better bet that they would consider an Xbox as part of their arsenal. This isn't something that you have to think hard about. I think it's just some of you that, like I said, this is wishful thinking from the PlayStation fanboys. They really want Xbox to leave hardware business. They should just say so. But they continue to come up with these things that refute their own points. Like, oh yeah, they make $11 billion from that. Let me go ahead and ask you a question and let me close this out. I'll open another whatever with it. Imagine if, say, I, as a content creator, I'm making 100% my ad revenue from this channel. And somebody who has a bigger channel says, hey, VG, come and publish your videos on my channel and I'll give you 70% of your revenue. And the person basically just leaves the terms open. Would I then abandon the 100% revenue that I'm making from the VG Fight School and then say, yeah, I'm making 70% on this other, channel, so let me go ahead and abandon my own 100% revenue? Would that not be foolish? In fact, wouldn't it not be more prudent that I publish on both here and their YouTube channel where I can make 100% revenue here and then 70% revenue there? Hey, that's the next video for all the YouTubers and content creators and detractors. Let's see what their answers are gonna yield. Thanks for watching this video. Peace out.